Bert, can you please turn off your camera? Thank you. Robert, I don't see your screen.
I'll put it up in a second. Hold on.
Oh, okay, perfect. So we're going to get ready to start in 2 minutes. Morning, everybody. Buenos días a todos. Thank you, Robert.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's great to be doing this with everyone watching.
Okay. So you ready?
I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm eating some carrots.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to start in Spanish, and then I'm going to switch to English. This presentation will be totally in English, but I'm going to start over greeting our Latin American people in Spanish as well. Bienvenidos a todos. Le habla Samuel Vélez, la compañía de Qaqc Scientific Instruments. Soy el coordinador de ventas y servicios. Hoy me complace en invitarles y presentarles esta presentación de reportes traída específicamente del mercado de Colombia, ¿verdad? Que nos pidió apoyo en una presentación en la que discutamos los diferentes reportes que tenemos de LabSolutions. La presentación, ¿verdad? Los recursos que van a estar dando la presentación son de americanos, ¿verdad? Y va a ser en inglés. La vamos a grabar para propósitos de soporte técnico y referencia más adelante. Y en la misma vamos a estar discutiendo básicamente los diferentes tipos de reportes que se pueden hacer en LabSolutions, desde lo más básico hasta lo más avanzado. Así que le damos la bienvenida a todos, a nuestras personas de Latinoamérica. Ahora voy entonces a cambiar en inglés para nuestra audiencia de Canadá y Trinidad. Good morning, everybody. This is Samuel Vélez. I'm the Sales and Service Coordinator for the International Department. Welcome, everybody. We got distributor, we got customers, so thank you, everybody, for participating on this presentation. Today's presentation will be provided by Mr. Robert Garrow, one of our product specialists for the LabSolutions BP product here in Shimadzu. Also, it's going to be available Mr. Andrew Pavlov. They're going to be exchanging the subject presentation. What we're going to say today, we're going to have a short introduction in a PowerPoint, and then we're going to jump into practical how to do this in the software per se. This presentation, as I mentioned, is going to be recorded, so I'm going to put a recorder now so we can start with Robert in any minute. Robert, give me a second, Robert.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you fine, everybody. Please, I will ask everybody, now we are recording. Thank you again for being here. I would like everybody, please mute your phones and camera. We want to make sure we want to see the presentation and whatever Robert, Mr. Andrews need to say. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining. With that being said, let me then introduce Mr. Robert Garrow. Please take it over, Robert. Thank you.
So we're going to start off, as Sam said, with a very short. Sam, how do you want to do this? You want me to speak and then stop so you can translate?
No. Go ahead, my friend. Let's do it in English. We don't have time for translation.
Okay. I'm going to do a very short presentation on just the different types of the main types of reports you can do in LabSolutions. There are a couple of others we're not going to talk about, but for the most part, we have four reports we care about. You've got your standard report. This is something all of you have been using. It's very basic, but it does what most customers need it to do. You've got your specialized reports. These are your system suitability reports and your QA/QC reports. You've got your multi-data report. This is, I believe, what you all were asking for and what you wanted most. And then you've got report sets, which is something we can do and no one else can, that is really useful, but most people don't know about it. So with your LabSolutions standard reports, these are included with every copy of LabSolutions. There's no additional licensing. There's no additional licensing for them. They can include both a peak table and a chromatogram. And there's also the ability to add data from multiple samples to a single report, although again, that's somewhat limited. One thing that I didn't write on this page is there's also the ability to do some very limited custom calculations. But again, there's only 4 or 5 parameters you can use, and it's extremely limited, which is why we've introduced some of the more advanced reports later on. As I said, very basic custom calculations. And you can't combine data from multiple types of instruments in these reports. For instance, if you have a GC and an LC, there's no way to make a combined report from both instruments. And with LabSolutions CS, that would be a GC, LC, UV, IR. You just can't combine them. All right. The next type of report we've got is system suitability reports. These are specialized reports. These check the suitability of your system. So basically, is your system acting the way you need it to? Is your column good? How is everything working? And these reports can be used in the batch to automatically stop a file. To stop a run. If, for instance, your standards aren't meeting the retention time and they fall outside of what it needs to be, as you can see here, the one I've got displayed is a fail. It could stop the run. QAQC reports are about the same, but they check individual samples. And again, these could be used to stop a run. Unless you all request it when we start doing live demos, I'm not going to talk too much about these reports. Okay. Multi-data reports are the big thing that we've added in LabSolutions DB and CS. These do not exist in LabSolutions Workstation or LabSolutions Lite, unlike the previous reports we've talked about. These reports allow you to input data from multiple types of instruments. For instance, if you were doing a full suite of testing on a biological sample, you could enter UV data, you could enter IR data. If it was you could enter balance data, and all that data could be combined into this one report, so that there's no having to go to a user notebook and do manual calculations and combine things then into Word or Excel. These also allow for advanced calculations within LabSolutions. Basically, it's an Excel template. Andre's going to go through that, but with very few exceptions, anything Excel can do, we can do in here, which is really useful. This means that there's no danger of accidentally altering data when you're using it. You can't mistranscribe something, say flip a 3 and a 4 in a number and then throw off your entire result, because everything's automatically moved from the database to the report, calculated, and then a PDF is created. These reports involve very little training for the majority of your labs. Somebody's going to have to create a report template, and that does require a lot of training and a lot of time. But once the report template's created and you've got what you want, any lab tech can go and run it with the press of a very few buttons. And we will show you, Andre's going to create a very simple report for you when he runs, and I'm going to show you a much more complicated one, and they can both be run very easily by any of your lab technicians. The last report we've got are report sets. These combine all of the PDFs that are generated in the LabSolutions database into a single report. And it's possible to link all the report sets and the data together. So it becomes the report set is your parent and the data is your child reports, which means if you do anything to the report set, it locks all the data. Once the report set's generated and electronically signed, it can't be altered. And we'll show you an example of that as well. As I just said, the report set can be electronically signed, and electronically signs all the data associated with it. But the one thing you have to remember is report sets cannot be combined with system suitability or QAQC reports. Reason for that is the system suitability and QAQC reports are not created as PDFs. They are unalterable HTML files. So they are perfectly safe, but it does mean they can't be put into a report set. Now, what you can do is we could generate the system suitability and QA/QC reports as part of a multi-data report that will give us the same results, and that could be added to the report set, but that would take a little extra work when setting it up. And I may have gone through that much faster than I meant to. I apologize. But that's the end of just the introduction presentation.
Okay, so now it's my turn, right?
Oh, does anyone have any questions or anything they particularly want to see?
Do you want to take question now or the end?
We'll take questions at the end if nobody had anything urgent. Go ahead, Andre.
Okay. So first we are going to talk about a standard report. Here it is possible to add stuff like a header and stuff. It is possible to create headers and footers. For example, here you can add a username and date and stuff like that. The final report would look like that. It is also possible to enter a logo or something like that, a picture. That's basically it, unless you have any questions. Do you have any questions?
So, and to create those reports, you basically, you drag the chromatogram, or this is a template that already have chromatogram table and the header specifically in the template.
Click here and drop it here. That's how it looks like. So you use these tools and drop them on the screen. That's how you do it.
This is a standard report, right?
That's standard report, yeah. No questions? Okay, I will move to the multi-data report then. To create multi-data report, you go into Administration tab and click Create Multi-Data Report Template. You can add information. Well, first let's load data. As you see, I have a balance and the UV data as well as LC data. You can type anything you want and then acquired by, for example. You can drop it here and you see it was acquired by Shimadzu. And you can filter data by using data select settings. Here you have filtering LC data or UV data and other kinds of data. As you see, there is a lot of different kinds of LabSolutions. And you can filter by, let's say, daytime, I don't know, between this and that. Let me open already created report. So here I have acquired by, data acquired, a logo, data, and averages, standard deviation, and percent RSD. And on the second page, I have UV measurements and weights. And it is possible to show area, concentration, height, purity. Well, actually, purity is a custom field. Let me show you how to do it. It's set in the batch. Being slow. To set custom stuff, you can go to batch settings and option items. As you see here, I entered option 1, standard purity, and here is this standard purity. And you can enter 10 of these optional items. And then you can use them in the calculations in multi-data report, as you see here. So this calculation includes standard purity. Okay. Let me show you how I filter data. Here I sort by sample name and filter by unknown sample types. And I set ID to be equal or greater than 1 to hide unnamed peaks, because you want to only see peaks with names. Otherwise, it will be a lot of peaks. And what else? On the LabSolutions UVs, on this one, I also do some filtering on photometric. Yeah, here it must be unknown. If you want to see all of your data, you can go to Data Info View. This will give you all of your data with all information. And even multi-data register like balance.
Okay, Andrew. So I see you have different tabs in the top view. You have Lab Solution, IRUV. So this is like default. You have all this software. If you have configured those instruments, then you will be able to see all the data coming from all those different instruments. Is that correct?
Yes, you can have data from all of these instruments. LabSolutions LCGC, LabSolutions IR, UV, RF, ICP-MS, PPSQ, UVs, TA, and all of the multi-data register types.
And we've got a couple more softwares under LabSolutions, such as GCMS and
Yes.
LCMS.
Soon. Yeah.
And if anyone's wondering, this page is filtering off of what Andre has the tab filtered to. So you'll see different reports on each page. It only shows you what you need to see.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, this is the high-end report that Shimadzu have, right? We call it multi-data report. It would be beneficial for those customers that have a Shimadzu database or maybe other instrument they want to link into LabSolution CS or DB. The purpose here is we can collect data from different instruments and then do kind of a summary report, which each instrument. So we have IR data, we have GC, GCMS, and we can put a review here, right? Summary.
Sam, remember that to do different instruments, you're really going to need CS since the DBs don't communicate with each other.
Yeah, okay, that's a very good point. Thank you, Rob.
For DB, you can have balance. I think it's supported.
It will support balance. It won't support any. You can't have like a LC and an IR. You have an LC and a balance. You cannot have an IR and a balance.
Yeah, so LC, GC, and a balance. Yeah, I don't think you can well, it's not supported to install others. Yeah. So that's all I wanted to show. Robert, do you want to show your stuff?
One second.
Wait, how do I?
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to go through a little bit more complicated multi-data report that we made a while ago and show you all how to, and then go on into report sets and electronic signatures. So let me find that. There we go. So I've got my own copy of LabSolutions here. And I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Login is my user. Log in correctly as my user. It'll work better. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my multi-data report. I'm not going to import any data into this right this second, because if I do it from here, it will take quite a while, and I don't think anybody wants to sit and watch my computer spin. If anyone does, say so in the chat. But here's my multi-data report template. And as you can see, we said these can get quite complicated. I have 9 different tabs here. The multi-data report is set to only print these 3 tabs. These 3 are all doing back-end work, mostly bringing data in a organized manner. But then this is my testing information. This one here, Andre showed you the optional items, is bringing in each tablet weight. This report, by the way, is for a dissolution. For any of you who don't know what that is, it'll make the demo a little bit more easy to follow. Is basically you drop a tablet into a water bath and you dissolve it, and there'll be 6 water baths you're testing against. And you're testing to see how quickly the tablet dissolves. So it's going to automatically bring in all the sample weights from the balance. It's going to and then it's all going to automatically bring in all of my LC results. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in my standard from the UV. So I've scanned my standard on a UV and we're comparing against that to see the percent dissolved. So now, if I go into my data manager, I'm assuming all of you are familiar with LabSolutions DB and CS and how it works, but for any of you who aren't, the data manager is kind of a central repository for all data that's stored on the system. Instead of going to the to the folders on the hard drive, you can go in here and you can review all your data. And as you can see here, I've got 66 samples. This is why it would take a while for this to build in. I told you I had 6 baths, 1 tablet in each bath, and we tested it 11 times. So each sample, I have 4 reports on. This report, sample 001, on each of these is going to be different. Where'd you go? There we are. This is my standard analysis report. You can see I've got my chromatogram. Peak 3 is the one I care about. The others are different stuff we're not testing. Here's my retention time, my area, my height. Concentration I should have taken out of here. I didn't. We weren't testing for concentration. We were just testing for amount dissolved. So we were doing everything off of area. And this will be for every single report. And it's got all the information. These other three are a little bit special. When you set up a batch, let me go ahead and show you what we've got. Post run. Come on. There we go. When I go over and I look at my batch here, if I go into the batch options, I can take, did I click on, sorry, batch settings. I can go into, I have this method report here. I can add up to 3 files that will be added to every line of the batch. And all these are regular LabSolutions reports. It can be anything you want. And I have 3 different reports that are added to every line of the batch. So it doesn't matter whether I'm looking at line 3, line 7, line 5. They're all the same. And the first one is my batch report. All this does is it shows everything that was run with this sample. My second one is my instrument configuration. And it just shows this is the instrument I was running. I was running a CBM 20A with ROM version 2.72. And this is all saved in your database and can always be pulled up. My third report is my method configuration, and it's how I ran the system. You know, it was a 5-minute run, detector A, on detector A at 2 Hz sampling frequency and whatever else I needed. And this is kind of nice because if anyone asks you, well, how was it run? You have all 4 of these reports stored in the database in an uneditable PDF format, and these cannot be changed or altered, and they can't even be deleted. And if you try to copy something else in, there'll be an audit trail of it. So this is very important for compliance. Now, I could pull all this information out of my sample, but I don't really want to do that if I can avoid it. So once I've run everything, I am now want to create my multi-data report. And there are 2 ways of doing that. I can do it automatically. During the run, I can take this multi-data report tab and I can add my multi-data report from any project into this tab. Tell it I want to do it from line 1 to 1,000. Doesn't matter as long as you've got all the lines in your batch. Now it's going to create a single multi-data report, and as it goes through, as each sample is finished, it's automatically going to create the multi-data report. I am not going to show you it doing that from here because it will take about 15 minutes to generate all the reports and create the multi-data report for me. What I am going to do is there's a second way. Some of you might have already caught on, well, what if you're running a UV or a balance and you want that in the multi-data report too? You can't really do it from this screen. The second way to generate multi-data reports is you go into your batch, and I've got my multi-data report set up in such a way that it doesn't matter really what order I have these in. But if you're not careful, that will be training when you learn to create multi-data reports. You've got to watch that. But I select everything that I want in the multi-data report. So I probably go to my batch set. I'd select the batch set that I want to generate a multi-data report from, say OK. Or if I'm adding stuff that's not LC, I would just do it from the main screen. Happens that that's the only thing I've got in here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to File and I'm going to say Create Multi-Data Report. And that I will do. So as long as everything's selected, and I can say this is demo port, and I'll give it today's date. All right, then I've got my sample ID. It doesn't matter what these are all for you. for your own information. You can leave them blank if you want. I'm going to say MDR-001. So it's dissolution. And then I'll put all right. Once I've done that, I'm going to select where I want to create the multi-data report from. I do it from there. I'm going to select my template. I'm going to say OK. And it's asking me for the order it wants to add samples in. I do not want to add I do not want the first sample in my multi-data report to be 66. So I could sit down and move this all the way to the bottom. As I alluded to a minute ago, it's taking the order that they're listed here. However, I have my multi-data report automatically sorting everything into the correct order, so I don't need to worry about this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit OK. And it is now generating the multi-data report. This is going to take a minute or two. So a lot of data it's got to bring in and process. All right. Telling me some cells were removed. I probably have something in here that I wasn't using. But I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Successfully registered to the report file. And here is my multi-data report. And as you can see, it lists all the samples. I could set it up so that there's a tab here that shows me what all the raw data is as well that's in the multi-data report, but I don't need that right now. And here's my finalized multi-data report. So you can see I'm going to make this a little smaller. On page 1, this is a prednisone. I did not do a good job creating a title. It should say dissolution report results. This is prednisone. Type should say tablet, but I don't think I filled that in. This is my standard absorbance from my UV. These are my tablet weights from my balance. Component name is prednisone. And on this one, there was no value unit, so we just left it blank. Here is my percent dissolved. And with multi-data reports, you cannot bring in individual sample chromatograms. It's just, that's not what it does. But it can take your results and create a graph from it. So this is showing you after 5 minutes, I had almost nothing dissolve. 15%, less than 15% was dissolved. After 10 minutes on most of them, up to 30% was dissolved. 15 minutes, I'm up at 40. And you can see it's leveling off, which is what you would expect for a dissolution. Seems to me that only having 60% dissolved, leveling off there was probably not the best run in the world, but it's what it was. And you can see that I have 6 different vessels and it's telling me which vessel is which. And I have my raw data up here. And here, just for reference, is the actual absorbance values. All right, so my multi-data report comes out to be 3 pages. And that's really all there is to it. The next thing we're going to talk about is report sets, but that will be relatively quick. I wouldn't mind starting to take questions now on multi-data report if we'd like to.
Is there any question? ¿Alguna pregunta de la audiencia? Él está preguntando que si tienen preguntas, pueden usar el chat o pueden abrir su micrófono si tienen una pregunta para Robert. Is there any question? You can use the chat or just open your microphone. Let us know what the question is. Any questions so far? Everybody clear on what Shimadzu have to offer in terms of software from standard to multi-data report, which is the high end. Here we're combining different techniques. So we can have kind of a summary report coming from HPLC. He used balance here, UV. Any questions? ¿Alguna pregunta?
Sam, my screen is being shared, right?
Yeah.
The red line disappeared.
Hay una pregunta. There is a question from Juan Felipe Robert. He said from Colombia. It's asking what possibility to export this data to other database.
We'll come back to that. The multi-data report really can't be. We do have the capability of exporting to a LIMS system in two ways. With other database, do you mean a LIMS system?
Juan, ¿te refieres a un sistema de LIMS o a qué te refieres con lo de exportarlo a otra? ¿O estás hablando de un vendor diferente exportar base de datos al de nosotros o viceversa? De otro vendor. Okay. Puedes abrir el micrófono, Juan, si quieres.
Yes, Sam, thank you. Yes, that's the question. If you have the possibility to migrate these data from other databases, not like DBs, or type of LIMS systems from other companies.
We have a LIMS connection option. I'll open this real briefly right now. We can go into this. I'd like to finish the report stuff, and we can go into this afterwards if you like. I don't think we'll take the whole time with the rest of the report stuff. So, but we can export anything that's shown here. Let's do that. We could export any information that's shown here, and I can show you an example of some of the exports if you'd like to see it. Basically, it exports it as a text file, which the LIMS systems can then read. There's another option to do a direct connection between the LIMS database and ours.
Okay.
But I would like to come back to this at the end if we have time. I'll show you a little bit more in detail.
Just to mention something before you just continue, Robert, there was a question about DB and CS version MDR is the same. Andre answered that DB and CS have the same MDR. Okay. When we use CS, LabSolutions CS, which is a higher-end platform from Shimadzu, you can have multiple instruments and have multiple reporting to a multi-data report. DB is a little bit different. Robert mentioned that. I just want to mention that that question was also on the chat and was answered. Go ahead, Robert.
Okay. So now we've generated a multi-data report, and you want a final report. We have a couple of options here. Every report that we've generated has a PDF. Got that. We've got this one has its own set of PDFs. We do want to create a final report. And I need to check and make sure I configured something correctly, or we're going to have literally 1,000-page final report, and that we don't want. So give me 1 second. I just thought that I didn't do this. Not that. That. So we've got a whole bunch of report set settings that we can do. And I did set this up correctly. And our report set, what it does is it takes all the PDFs and combines them into one report in whatever order from top to bottom you've selected here. So what I want to make sure is that I am skipping other reports with duplicate names. These 3 reports are all going to have the same name in every file, and they're all the same. I only need them once. So I'm going to make a report set that has all my individual data reports, all my other reports. This will be my multi-data report. I am, for the moment, not going to do sample information lists or logs. The sample information list would be your batch. I've taken care of that with this batch report down here. And logs would be audit trails and things. And honestly, I just don't have it set up. If I do that right now, it's not going to look good. But you can have it import audit trails into this multi-data report. And we can do that in a minute if you want, if you all want to see it. But since I haven't customized it, it's going to be very hard to read. So what we're going to do is this is set up the way I want. And then on the report set, I've got my page set up using the default printer. I've got a header and I've got a footer. So I'm having it put Shimadzu sample set. and then the number of pages on the report set, the operator, in this case it'll be user, and the date that it was created on. And I could do that in the header or footer. You just want to make sure it doesn't overwrite anything in the original reports. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to close this. And I need to now sort this in the order I want my report set in. There are other ways of doing this, but with this particular one, the easiest way for me is to say sort sample information. And first, I am going to sort it by software, since multi-data report and the rest are LabSolutions. I am going to select software from here. And then I'm going to do it by date acquired. So data acquired, I want ascending. Software, I actually want descending, since I want the multi-data report to be at the very front of my report. I'm going to say OK. And now I've got my multi-data report followed by sample 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and all the way down to 66. I am going to select everything. I am going to right click and I'm going to say create a report set. And it's going to go through, it's going to generate, it's taking all the PDFs in all of these different lines and smashing them together into one report. And I've got this bookmark over here, which is really only useful in this particular step, but I can see these are all my data reports. These are all my method reports. So if I click on it, it takes me down to my batch method, my instrument configuration. And remember, these are what I showed you that came out of these settings. These are the reports that came out of here. And these reports can be anything you want. So go back to here, there, come back here. Sorry, I lost track of where I was. Where's my report? Ah, there we are. Kept clicking on the wrong thing. So we've got all our reports, and I can jump to any and look at them. I can zoom it out a little bit. Sorry. Sam, is my sound still working? Sometimes that messes it up.
Yeah, everything is working. I just want to mention here you can see individual data with chromatograms and all that, and also you can have like a multi-data report with a summary of each technique. Correct? Yeah.
So here's my multi-data report, and I could at the front of my multi-data report, if I thought ahead, I could put a title page that says Shimadzu sample set, page 1 of 78. This is page 2 of 78, page 3. If I go down here, I'm at page now 48 of 78. So we've got one sample as a set that shows you everything. If I go all the way to the end, stop that mouse. Go all the way to the end. Come on. I've got my batch. This is the batch report that I had it put in. I've got my system configuration that was used for all of these. And I should have my method in here too. I think I just jumped over it. There's my method. And it puts everything into a nice report. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it demo and today's date. And I am going to press enter. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit save. I could print it now if I wanted. I really don't want to print 78 pages that I'm not going to use. I'm going to hit save. And now I've got this multi-data report. Sorry. Multi-data report here. And if I open up this PDF, and I could send this PDF to somebody if I needed to, it has everything in it as a single uneditable PDF. Now though, if I now go into post run and I look at my samples and you see how everything is blue now? It's blue because there's a report set that it's tied to. And the report set is has locked these files, so I can't edit them. If I try to open one, it will let me, but it won't let me do anything to it. They're currently in a locked state, and I can show you that in another way better, actually. If we go to table style and we say file lock, I want to do file lock, and I want to do link. Now, everyone, this is a useful trick. If you need to move two things really far up, just select everything above it to where you want it and press down. And they move right up to where it needs to be. Say OK. And see, now this one is not locked. I haven't done anything to lock it. However, this is the parent and these are the children. All of these are locked. I can't do anything to them now. All right. Now, the last thing that we were going to talk about, I'm going to step back for a second. That's really all there is to the report set. There's not much more to it. Basically, it takes all of your PDFs and smashes them together into one large PDF and ties everything to it. If I right-click on it, I can say confirm link information, and it shows me all the files that are tied to this particular sample. I don't know if it works the other way. Yeah, so I can click on any of them and see what the parent is and see what all the children for that parent are. And if I needed to, and I had the authority, that's a big deal, I can unlink them to unlock these. I don't want to unlink them right now, though. But this is, even if I unlink one, this has already been created. It will not be changed. Right. The next thing we want to do is we want to perform an electronic signature on everything. So all I'm going to do is just select the report set up here. I'm going to say signature. And then I can select any of these that don't pass. I can click on it and it'll show me exactly which one we're looking at back there. Just jumps right to the page. All right, and I could reject one. In this case, I don't think I'm going to, but I'm going to go ahead and confirm this. I do not need a comment because I am confirming it, and mine is configured in such a way that you don't need a comment to confirm. I would, if I rejected it, I would need a comment, or I think in this case, if I withdrew it, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I need my username and password. Well, I just need my password. Do that. And now everything's about to change color. As soon as it finishes. All right. It signed the selected files. And now everything's yellow. That tells me that this is in my level 2 signature. And I can see if I go into link file sign check report, I can see that everything has been confirmed. And if there were any notes written, it would show me. All 66 files were signed at once. If I go into my PDF, I have this set to write the signature at the top of every page. So I don't need to mess with for pages 1 to 78 or anything like that. Every page is signed. So every individual report is signed. Now, since I did sign these through my report set, these PDFs are not signed. If I go in and I pull it up, if I pull up the right one, you will see there is no signature on this, but it is electronically signed in the database. Since this is what you're going to generally print, this is where I prefer to do it. If I go in as another user, which I'm going to do now, I'm going to log in as the reviewer. multi-data report. I'm going to go into my device manager, my data manager. Pull up my data, and I'm going to sign it again. I've reviewed everything. It's good. Signature. I am now on the reviewed level. I am good with everything. We're going to reject that one. Won't let me reject just one of them. We'll keep them all good. Reviewer. Actually, what we would have had to do, and I wasn't thinking signature, I would have had to reject it here, and then I could reject the individual one. But I'm going to leave it all as good for now. I'm going to put in my password. And it signed it, and now they're all green, showing me that it's been reviewed. If I check my status report, you can see who did it. You can see that the signer was the laboratory reviewer. And for the first one, the signer was the laboratory user. And this would go on through however many of your 5 levels you wanted to do. And again, we will have both signatures up at the top of every page. And that pretty much covers report sets and electronic signatures with them. Are there any questions?
Is there any question? You can put on the chat or you can open your microphone. ¿Alguna pregunta? A ver. Si tiene alguna pregunta, a favor de abrir su micrófono, escribirla en el chat. Any questions about reports? Multi-data reports? I know there's a lot of steps. Of course, we're giving here like a summary, how this works and how, the benefit of using this system. Going through this step by step will require a lot of time, but we just want to give you an idea how this works. So is there any questions? ¿Alguna pregunta? Robert, I do have a question for you. I don't see anything in the lobby yet or in the chat. If we have a customer that say, they understand the power of LabSolutions, they need support putting together at least one of the reports so they understand how this works and then take it from there. Is that something that we can do for them, for any customer that is interested in LabSolutions?
We will help you put together your first couple of reports, and then we'll help you, if you run into problems, we'll help you walk you through it, or we'll try to figure out a way. A lot of it just involves thinking of how do I tell the computer to do this.
Right. Yeah, I remember people sometimes ask, I have this formula that I do manually in Excel sheet. Can I do it here in multi-data report? What is the answer for that?
Almost always yes. The one thing we can't do is macros.
Okay. So is there something now manually where they calculate RSD or theoretical plates or anything like that in order to report something and release something manually, they can simulate that with multi-data report in a secure environment. Is that correct?
Yes. In fact, we can actually we showed you the LabSolutions backend for multi-data report. We don't recommend this, but you could use Excel for it. It makes it a lot harder, though.
Okay. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Okay. No veo, I don't see any question. No veo ninguna pregunta aquí en el chat. Okay.
Maybe. I am opening up the.
Somebody's asking about the requirement of the PC for, I'm guessing it's for multi-data report. For this
Any
environment.
same as for LabSolutions.
Okay. So you don't need a special like capacity, gigabytes, or okay.
No, I do recommend you. It might run kind of slowly if you don't have a 16 gigabytes of memory. You can run LabSolutions with less, but I would, for multi-data report, I would recommend at least 8, if not 16.
What about
Yeah,
when we
16
have
is
like
better.
what about when we have like mass spectrometry data, like a GCMS or LCMS? They have other kind of stuff in there.
Here, let me share my screen again. I can show you what's available. But yes, the mass spectrometry does work in multi-data report. Now, I do not do much with mass spectrometry personally, so I can't say I can't guarantee you that there won't be something you can't do, but I don't know of anything.
Yeah, well, the question is more about the computer requirement, right?
Computer requirement.
So,
mass spec, you definitely want 16 gigabytes of memory.
okay, yeah, because you have like mass spectrometry data and files and all that. More information, right? Okay.
Yeah. So for whoever was asking about the LIMS export,
Yeah, that was
here's
one.
an example of what LC exports. And this is completely customizable. This happens to have everything selected. But I could tell it that I only want to export the whatever line, whatever this is. And this wasn't set up properly. Give me 1 second. Let me find a better one. That was set up more very specifically for somebody who didn't need some other things that would be helpful.
So Robert, let me ask you something. If we have a customer that have LabSolution DB and they have multi-data report, and they're ready maybe to upgrade and move into the LabSolution CS environment, can they move data from that database in DB into the CS in the server later
We're
on?
working on that right now. If you only have one DB and you want to go to CS, it works very well. If you have more, it gets a little complicated. The short answer is we can do it, but it's not always. It can be difficult.
Okay.
All right, here. This is a better one. Sorry, there are some configuration settings with the last one I showed you. We weren't printing out what everything was because it wasn't needed for that particular customer. There we are. So here, this is showing you, these are your detectors that are on the data files. These are your line number, your peaks. Now, what we can do is we can customize this. If you only need peak height, and percent area to go to your LIMS system, we can customize it so that it's all that's exported. And when these are exported, they're exported as CSV files. Or we can do, Andre, what's the other one called? XML files.
And TXT, I think, right?
Well, that's CSV, but yeah, TXT. So, but this is what exported, and as I said, it's very, very customizable. Are there any other questions?
I saw somebody had question a while ago about summary reports.
Did you see what the question was?
About how to do summary report.
Summary report is pretty simple. It's just like a regular report. Here, I'll set one up real quick. Hang on. Go
I
back
also
into-
see a question from Fernando Andres Alvarez. He said, "What version are you working with?"
This is probably 6.106, although nothing we've showed you in this will be changed in older versions. I think what we showed you here today is pretty much the same from 6.5 on, other than we can do more instruments in this version into multi-data report.
Okay. Yeah, and the next question was from Juan Felipe Barrio. He's asking about the summary report.
All right.
He says, "Could you show us when there are summary report how do that?"
So that's one thing I didn't say is summary reports also cannot be brought into multi-data reports. Stop that. But if you want to do a summary report, it's pretty simple. All you're going to do, let me go to a different project. Since I've locked all the data in this project, it's going to cause me problems. Does anyone want to see system suitability or QA/QC reporting? Wrong screen. All right. So, summary report is really quite simple. Now, one thing you need to check on is under security policies. Under instrument, if you have prohibit opening a file in each item checked, it's going to make your creating summary reports much more difficult because you can create the report, but you can't see what you're doing without running it. It won't allow you to drop any samples into the report while you're creating it. So, and I don't see any advantage to having this checked ever. So I generally go ahead and uncheck it when I do installs. But all we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a report format. Honestly, all I'm going to do is go down to here, go down to analysis common, and we've got these 3 summary reports down here. And I'll go ahead and I'm going to do a compound report. Drag it in. And I'm not going to worry about what it says right now. Do that. And I'm just going to drag my a couple of my samples in. Let's do this with 2D data, demo data. I'll just drag them all in and drop them. Oh, you're going to be obnoxious about this, huh? Remember what I was just saying about make sure that's not checked? There are 2 places it might be checked. Prohibit opening a file in each item. It was checked there. There we go.
Project security settings takes over the general ones, correct?
Yes, project security settings take over the general ones unless you set prohibit setting up project security, prohibit setup policy in a project. In fact, I'm going to do that just to make my life easier. Now I go into post run and it will work. Item, analysis, compound, drop my table, say okay, and go down and find my demo data. Now you better work. There we go. And that's all there is to it. And then you just save this as a normal report. Now, if you actually want to add things to it, save report format file as. So I've got that. Now, if I actually want to generate this report format file, I'm going to go to my batch, which is, hopefully I can figure out which ones these are. Demo batch. I am going to select my summary, and I'll just go ahead and I'll add everything to it. Summary demo. And I'm going to fill down. I'm going to summary start. I'm going to summary end here. And I'm going to summarize this. Then I'm going to summary start. I'm going to end it here. Now I will have two summary reports at the end of this, one going from here to here, and one summary report going from there to there. And they're all going to use that particular file. I could change this one if I had another file to use. I'm going to go ahead and start this. It's going to ask me to save it. I'll say yes. Is this answering your question about summary reports?
Juan, la pregunta para ti.
Yes, it's all. Thank you.
Now, what you've got to remember, if I want to see the summary report, I'll be in the correct project, which I am. I hit start. I have to be on batch, and I have to be looking at it as the batch. If you look down here, though, all I would be seeing is the individual reports. I need to look at batch, and there are my two summary reports, and they'll be the same for all of them. Now, for my individual reports, it didn't create data files, and I'd have to look at the settings to see why. But I do have my summary reports here. Here's my first summary report. And I could edit this and do what I needed to do. This one looks like it's for my standards. And here's my second summary report. Oh, I didn't need to click on another one. And this is for my 4 unknowns. Is there anything else you'd like to see with that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so it's 12:06. Do we have any other question? ¿Alguna otra pregunta para Robert o Andre? En relación a la presentación, lo que nos compartieron. Is there any questions?
I'd like to take a second to thank all of you for putting up with my having to delay this last time it was scheduled. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a question from D'Antonio, Analitech. He said, so this summary report can be done with workstation version?
The summary report can be, yes.
Okay.
I don't think the workstation version has the problem that I ran into there, where I had to go in and uncheck that option also. So it's a little easier.
Si tiene alguna pregunta, también puede abrir el micrófono nuevamente y hacer la pregunta o escribirla en el chat. Any other questions?
Buenos días. Para hacer una preguntita, si esta presentación no la van a enviar al correo, pues porque esto es muy aplicativo, pero debería ser como para uno poder practicarlo en el puesto. Gracias.
Sí, la presentación se refiere al PowerPoint o al video.
Perdón, el video y toda la presentación que han hecho.
Okay. La presentación va a ser editada, ¿verdad? Y para enviar la información precisa de lo que se comentó, será enviada a los distribuidores y ellos con mucho gusto pueden hacer llegar a un cliente la que participó para contestar esa pregunta. Is there any other questions o preguntas? There is a question here. There is 2 summary reports can be shown in one PDF. And Andre said the whole point is to have 2. If you select all samples, will be one summary report with all the data. Are there any other questions? Robert, anything else you want to say, or Andre? Any questions, Robert?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Robert, do you have anything to add? Good.
I do not.
Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions. So if this is all for today, I want to thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your interest in our product line. This particular product, LabSolutions, is a very powerful software that we have with a lot of capabilities. So if you have a specific question, feel free to contact your local distributor, and we can, put together something to answer any question you may have. If you have any additional questions. Again, I want to thank Mr. Robert and Andrew for your time putting together this presentation and this demo. I know there is a lot of information here. I'm going to share a couple of videos that show step by step, so for your reference, so you can understand a little bit better. But our whole goal here was to let you know that we have different type of reports, from something very basic, standard, to something more advanced, like multi-data report. So we have a spectrum of things that you can do. We want to show you here also that we have a system. If you have like Excel sheet or something where you do calculations, that's something that you can recreate with multi-data report. As Robert mentioned, this is only available for DB, LabSolutions DB and LabSolutions CS, the multi-data report. But we just want to let you know that it's a solution that we have. Again, Robert mentioned, if you have something, if you are interested in this solution and you want to put together your first report, we're willing to help you with a couple of reports until you are your own. Okay, so again, thank you very much. And I will say bye for today, for now. En español, quiero agradecerle a todas las personas que se nos unieron. Muchas gracias por su participación y el interés en nuestros productos Shimadzu. La presentación de hoy va a ser compartida a los distribuidores y ellos pueden compartirla a las personas interesadas. Si tienen alguna pregunta, pueden comunicarse con su distribuidor local y con mucho gusto, ¿verdad? A través de ellos le estaremos contestando cualquier pregunta que puedan tener. Así que, sin decir nada más, me despido y muchas gracias por su participación y que tengan un excelente día. Buenas tardes o buenos días, dependiendo de donde usted se encuentre. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.